I apologize. Good morning, and well, not good morning, but welcome to Sean's Thoughts. You're live with me today, and unfortunately, I'm trying to get the camera to do what I want it to do, and it's not cooperating. So, unfortunately, it's showing you a blank screen right now, and yet I have the camera facing at the sunrise that's happening. So, thank you for joining me today. I'm uncertain whether or not this is even recording, and yet do see one person online. And thank you for waking up early with me. For me, right now, it's just after 5:55 a.m. And I've decided, or not decided, actually, I felt for a very long time that 5:55 was a wonderful time to release videos. And so often I've scheduled videos to come out at this time, and yet I always had this inclination or idea that streaming at this time would be ideal as well. So last night I scheduled a recording, and here I am. The one thing that I'm learning though is the camera does not want to cooperate. So unfortunately, what we're seeing right now is just black screen as to what my camera's showing. However, I'm going to continue on anyways because you never know. Perhaps it is filming and I'm just not picking it up on my camera. So thank you again for joining me and sharing your attention with my thoughts. Today, my thoughts I wanted to share is the idea that we are all healers. I'm often seeing all these advertisements and recommendations come up on my feed in YouTube regarding healing training, learning to become a healer. And yet what occurred to me last night when I was watching one of these ads is that we are all healers. There's this idea that there's this book called Be the Leader, or it has to do with leading. And it implies, or actually directly states within the book, that we are all leaders. And it occurred to me the same thing with we are all healers. And what that means to me, anyways, in this particular statement is that we have to learn how to heal ourselves first before before we can ripple effect of healing upon anyone else. But more importantly, before anyone else can be healed, we have to heal ourselves. And this doesn't just refer to healing any ailments or symptoms you might experience from numerous amounts of things. It also means healing the traumas that we have. And going back to being a healer is that trying to I apologize. I am just waking up right now, so my stream of consciousness isn't necessarily flowing as normally as it would be. So, anyways, I know that this is an important subject because for me, myself, and I have often talked about learning thought field therapy. See, originally I had learned thought field therapy believing that I was going to make it my business and make money from it, like derive an income from going out into the world and teaching people thought field therapy, or at least practicing it with them. And yet, what I discovered was that I had learned it for myself. I had learned it so that I could heal myself. See, going to a practitioner on a daily basis would have been extremely costly. And yet, when I taught myself how to do it, I essentially did it on myself and perhaps, rippled it around me when I was sitting in Starbucks, tapping on my face and my arms and looking all weird and stuff. Anyways, so I was able to actually practice this therapy on myself. And that continual effort that I did on a daily basis is what relieved a lot of the traumas and healing that I was on my own way to do during this lifetime. And so coming back to us, the healer is within ourselves. Like it's not just practicing that, it's also doing what is required in order to learn what to do about how to heal ourselves. in this world, there are so many different natural modalities to essentially get to that point of healing that we would choose to be at. And I say choose for a very specific reason. And books such as The Medical Medium, I've often talked about, hold a vast number of natural healing techniques that can be utilized. And while some will work and some won't, there's a reason being that the placebo effect works is because part of the healing aspect is the belief in that the healing actually does work. There's a great portion of anything that we do that we co-create, that we're part of. So when we take on a modality, when we, go to these different practitioners, the more belief we have in something, the greater the effect will be. And that's been proven over and over again by many different things. It's also been proven that we are stronger than we could ever imagine. There's been cases recorded in history where people did magnificent feats of strength simply because they were in an energetic or an adrenaline state that they wanted that task complete. So they became stronger than they could have ever been without being in that state. And so it goes to show that our sometimes not just our belief, but our desire, our drive to succeed in something such as healing is definitely a requirement. So when going throughout your day, learning how to heal and to how to essentially apply those techniques upon yourself are of the utmost importance. For instance, teas. I've spoken about them. Just by drinking differing teas, they hold a lot of, you can call it medicinal properties, but they hold a lot of effective ingredients and different minerals and lots of other beautiful, wonderful things that have been known for a very long time. In fact, Chinese medicine is made considerably out of boiling very stinky herbs and roots and such. And so there's many different roots and herbs out there that can be boiled and utilized, sometimes mixed, and definitely oftentimes they taste very interesting to drink. Things such as licorice root and marshmallow root and echinacea root, or yeah, anyways, there's a lot of different roots. Those were the harder ones to drink, but there's also a lot of different herbs and dried things, such as even taking the skin of a mandarin orange and washing it and then boiling it. That can even create some sort of tea. So it doesn't just have to be around drinking flowers or black tea or green tea. You can take numerous other things and turn those into teas as well. And then that allows you to stay hydrated at a higher, more effective rate. Because one of the things that affects us is dehydration. So they always talk about drinking water. Well, yeah, there's a certain amount of water that you should drink in a day to stay hydrated, yet drinking too much water might cause you to pee out or to urinate all of your essential, minerals and such. So there's definitely a balance to even taking care of yourself. But see, learning how to heal yourself means therefore you are stronger to learn how to heal your family, for example, or to pass on little bits of information when you're asked about it or people are observing you of how you're acting. So the healer within is recognizing that we are the healer, like we're the only ones who are going to heal ourselves. Often we give our power away to other symbols and beings and people in our lives, believing that they know more than us, when in fact, we know more about what's going on in our own body, especially when we're taking those moments to slow down and listen, than any white lab coat could ever know. I remember going when I originally started this whole journey. I'd gotten very sick one night. I think it was on New Year's Eve night, I stayed alone playing video games and drinking Pepsi. And the next day, I had some severe reactions. And after that, I kept going to the doctor trying to find, well, what was going on? What was wrong with me? And I'd have to answer the super long question of, what was wrong. And part of me was expecting him to give me the answer. And I say him, I mean the doctor that I was seeing. I expected him to give me the solution to why I was ill, and then to go back probably and continue doing what I was doing. And I was laid up in bed for a very, very long time. I found out later that my liver had some scarring on it. And, I was in a really bad situation. And it was quite a while before I even recognized that drinking that Pepsi that night and just sitting there playing video games, that essentially could lead to that whole event. Perhaps not just that one night, but that repetitious cycle of staying up late and stressing while I was conquering the world in a video game definitely played a role. And it was essentially a wake up call to me. Yet for the next several months, I went to many different doctors and I kept trying to get them to give me the answer. I would search on the internet looking for different tests that I could run and situations. And I would actually go into my doctor and tell my doctor what tests I wanted to run on myself because I had done the full research, and the doctor, in many cases, wasn't even aware that these tests existed or that the possibility was there. And see, I was looking at my symptoms because I was experiencing my symptoms. I knew them better than anyone else. And so I was able to not diagnose myself, but help figure it out. But what I recognized long time after, and well, it took a little bit of a journey to get there, was that the symptoms that I was feeling were considerably, we'll say, in my head, meaning that I was contributing them through my emotions, through my traumas, through my experience is essentially playing video games. See, one thing that a video game player may not recognize when they're playing their video game is that their body is stressed, is tensed, and that tense, stressed body while you're playing is constant. And so your body is in a constant state of fight or flight, and yet it's only a video game you're playing. There is no real immediate danger, and yet your body doesn't recognize that. Your body sees that, it's stress and you're running because your body's just seeing what your eyes are projecting, and what you're projecting is the TV screen in front of you. And so all of those stressors are flowing through your body, and your body is having to put up with all of that cortisol, with all of that, well, all those other hormones that would be related to that. And yeah, I spent a lot of time playing video games, as I've mentioned previously, and all of that accumulated. So when I went out into the world and I tried to find that quick answer, it's because part of me just wanted to get back to playing video games, because at that time I was struggling with the addiction of video games. And not necessarily junk food. That was kind of like a one night type of thing. I had just bought it and thought, I'll have it for the whole year. And then I ended up drinking like 5 or 6 cans of it because I was needing of the sugar, perhaps. Anyways, so back to the healer within. The road that I took was recognizing that it was my journey that I needed to find an answer for why I felt the way I felt. And I feel that that is the most effective way, because that's taking your power back. That's also practicing your ability to learn and listening more to yourself, and realizing that the tools to heal oneself is in oneself. So I spoke yesterday about intuition and, inner guidance, listening to yourself, reconnecting with your body, for example. But it's also knowing and holding yourselves accountable for the actions that you take. Means that, for instance, I've said before, if you eat food and then after the food you start burping and belching, and you get bloated, recognizing that those foods are perhaps foods that we shouldn't be consuming any longer, because they provide that gaseous state. And when that buildup happens, then, it can get worse. Or when there's a lot of gaseous foods all at one time. Soy, for example, is in a considerable amount of food, and yet people are allergic to soy. Not so much allergic as in an allergic reaction, but the soy actually considers a lot of, so not considers, creates a lot of gas. My understanding is soy is from mung bean or something, and beans, as you know, cause gas, and yet they have soy planted in almost so many different manufactured goods, such as like chicken and beef. They'll actually have soy in there if you read the ingredient list, or they'll have soy in so many other cereals, and or it'll say may contain soy, to the point that, why is there a cross contamination to begin with? And so learning all of this stuff and learning what your body prefers to have within its mortal coil, learning what causes negative reactions to your body, and remaining steadfast to avoid consuming those articles of food, that's all on you. It's all on each of us to determine what is good for our bodies and what's not. And of course, when we consume something that we knowingly cause us to be bloated, that we accept that, and perhaps we're even prepared for that. Things such as peppermint essential oil can be and do wonders for the body as well when we have experienced it. Or there's other different remedies that can alleviate some of the symptoms and make things easier, or help with the gas passing and such. Celery juice is a incredible example of something that can be super beneficial, even if you have had a troublesome night, for example. It also helps you relieve constipation, for example. See, there's so many different things that I've learned, and well, you know, the list is long and I'm not going to go through it. I do have other videos. I have one called the 14 things that I did. And it's actually more than 14, but I've often talked about many of the different modalities that I've brought into my own life. And I'll link that video at the end if you're interested in, taking your journey one step further and essentially just reviewing my experiences. Because as I was talking about yesterday, one of the things that we went through in this programming we live in is that we disconnected our body from ourselves, meaning that when we were in elementary school, and this is something that has become somewhat common knowledge around the people that I talk to, especially because I tell this story so much, is that when we were children, we grew up in our homes, and whenever we needed to go to the washroom, we did. And then we went to our programming at elementary school, and where we had to ask permission from an adult whether or not we were allowed to go to the washroom. And often when I was in school, I was told that I had to wait. I had to wait until the next person. I had to wait until the bell rung. I had to wait until whatever it is. And, we get to a point where we're told that we have to wait to urinate. And therefore, we start learning not how to control our body, but to disconnect the need to listen to our body. Our body, when it starts to fill up and you get that sign that you need to go to the washroom, that's something that should be recognized immediately. And yet, if you look out into the world in, well, retail and, well, the world in general, we're told where we can go to the washroom. We're removed from nature. We are told when we can go to the washroom. Means I would actually have to ask when I was working, can I have a break to go to the washroom? And we get told to, well, at least I did when I was at A&W. I got told that I'd have to wait sometimes because, I was on the grill and I have to wait. And you know, that in a sense is a lead up to that programming we received as elementary students, in that learning how to control your bladder, as they called it, in a sense was learning how to disconnect your body from listening, your ears, knowing. And I believe that that's the beginning steps of essentially disconnecting us from our inner knowing of listening. And one of the experiences that I had while I was going through my healing was that I had purchased this ingredient called rose hips. Now, rose hips is an amazing addition to anyone's tea. It's a little bit sweet. It, of course, smells a little bit like rose. Rose hips is the fruit of the rose plant, and it's after the petals on the plant. And you can boil this, and it has a very bioavailable vitamin C built right into it. It's one of the most potent vitamin C's, and it also has a lot of other ingredients. You can read about it in the medical medium book. Phenomenal ingredient. And it's actually what helped me heal a tremendous issue to do with my body. I won't go into details, but because everyone's different. Now, why I was saying I was ignoring it because every time I walked by, I got the feeling like when I was in the store, I didn't even know what it was, and I just picked it up. It was in the health food store, and I was looking for herbs for teas, the ones that I do know, like peppermint and lemongrass and echinacea and dandelion, stuff like that, things that I knew were effective, but I didn't know what rose hips were, and I took it and purchased it anyways. And then I brought it home and it sat in the back of my cupboard for a very long time because I didn't know what it was. And then I came across it when I was doing one of the UNN reports to do with different healing modalities. And I flipped through and I found an article on rose hips. And amazingly enough, the conditions that I was in at the time were exactly what rose hips claimed, or at least the book claimed, would help me with. And yet I had been seeing this and it had kept crossing my paths, and synchronicity kept alerting me of the potential, like all the way from randomly picking it up when I didn't intend to constantly thinking to myself, oh, I should get that one. I should use that one when I was making the teas. And I just kept dismissing that little inner voice, kind of very similar to that little need to go to the washroom. When the body is full of liquid, it's better that we get rid of it right away rather than letting the balloon, and you can imagine a balloon filling with water, that they'll get to a point where, perhaps it's time to get that water out of the balloon so that it doesn't start seeping through the walls of the bladder, for example. Not to say that it can do that, but the stress on the body is unnecessary. And yet it ends up starting complications that we may not perhaps perceive in that first few times that it happens. But yet, as it builds up, as it did with that Pepsi that I was drinking and the video games, those tensions, those stressors built up to the point where I was then in bed for a very long time. But if I had have listened more often, I might have actually taken things such as the rose hips earlier. And there was another situation where camphor oil, essential oil, I kept opening it up in my cupboard to look at the different oils that I wanted to use, but my eyes kept falling on that one, but I dismissed it for the more luxurious essential oils such as peppermint or, well, lemongrass and rose and vanilla. And I kept dismissing that one because the same thing, I had bought it not recognizing really what it was, but I had just added it to my order, and it ended up being a very, very, very effective essential oil for pain relief. Like taking that or peppermint, putting it on the back of your neck, inhaling those smells. It's beautiful smell, but also it has a lot of medicinal effect for pain and inflammation and such. And yeah, so finally winding all the way back. And I really do hope this video, I know it's not a video because it's just a black and white screen, but at least I can take the audio and re-upload this whole video so that people can benefit from, my experiences, because that's really what the best audios, you could say, is someone's actual experiences rather than, you know, sharing what you read in a book, sharing what I read in a book and then utilized, because those are the experiences which make us stronger. And so learning how to heal yourself, whether it's learning a modality such as thought field therapy, TFT, and then tapping on yourself, on your meridians and relieving the trauma, or learning an exercise program, or learning about the different herbal teas, essentially empowers you to take your life back, to take your ability to look after yourself, and therefore then your loved ones, especially the younger ones in your lives, the ones who may not have or choose or perhaps aren't unable to even learn that. Maybe there's a lot of big words that are hard to learn. And so, therefore, doing this for yourself, by yourself, strengthening yourself, and then also after sharing those experiences with other people, perhaps that's the way that we become more of who we are. Learning how to release one's trauma, for example, will make it so that when you go out in the world, that you're not taking those traumas out into the world, that you're not being triggered by different situations and inflaming those situations. You are essentially giving whatever energies are out there that would choose to abuse you, you're not giving them those ins, those options, those entry points into you in order to, you know, kick up that situation to get other people triggered as well. So there's a lot of great opportunities, like even the do no thing videos. Those things are essentially tools to use. They're, yes, beautiful to look at. The music's nice and relaxing. I've heard many people falling asleep, which is fantastic because, they're encouraging rest. But those are tools that you can use in those brief moments where you do get inflamed and you are triggered, and you can put that on and pull yourself into the moment of now within that 3 minutes and use them in busier locations. They're designed specifically for the frame of a phone. They are done in a 9 by 16 format so that they align with mobile devices, or you can turn your screen sideways and look it on a big screen TV, which is what I plan to do one day. But they're designed perfectly for that mobile person who needs that small respite, and just learning to take that time and to relax and to wind down, to eliminate the opportunity for, as I said, negativity to influence your life to any degree. That empowers you. And it takes back all of that power that we have given to the medical system, that we have given to, like I said, symbols such as the white lab coat, where we think, or we once thought, that they had all the answers, when in reality, we know our bodies better. And so becoming our own healer kind of makes sense because we know what we're actually experiencing. And when we have the time to actually slow down and listen, perhaps we'll discover that our body's able to tell us what it needs. And oftentimes, what it needs the most is rest. Rest heals so much. And there isn't a pill or a quick fix solution to solving that issue. There is definitely a requirement for us to slow down, breathe properly. That's an amazing basic technique as well, as just breathing properly. When we play video games, when we're stressful, our breathing becomes challenged, it becomes labored. And therefore, we're not necessarily in alignment with nature or with the frequencies that are around us or whatever it is. And so, even learning how to breathe properly, that's the first step that I've been taught to TFT, is this technique called collarbone breathing. And I highly recommend that you search for a video on YouTube, after, later, whenever it is, and learn this very effective tool, because it can take 3, 5 minutes to do. It might take a lot longer to learn, but once you have that tool, it's part of your toolbox to, you know, be your own healer. And therefore, things such as the financial system can't really stop you any longer. It can't hold you back or limit what you can heal. And they'll give you the tools that you need at those moments you need. And the more that you learn and you continue to practice different modalities, you'll become more effective in your own world, in your own community. And you're definitely your own family too. And so as they see you healing, they might decide also, hey, I'll go listen to that podcast by that guy named Shone, and maybe I'll be on my road. And that's essentially how we change the world, is we look within and heal ourselves first. We let go of those traumas. And if you feel right now that anyone in this world deserves anything that is like a punishment or vengeance, or, someone needs to go to jail because of give the reason, if you have any of those feelings, especially for people that you've only ever seen on the TV screen, then there is definitely some sort of healing that's required, because letting go is true trauma release. Not talking through it till your eyes fall off or until your mouth falls off or whatever it is. It's getting to that place where those people no longer have power over you. It means that they no longer trigger you to any degree, that their existence, whatever it is irrelevant to you and your life, especially if you don't actually truly see them. Means that the only place that you see them is on TV. Well, you have to question, are they even real, and why are they been brought into my life, and why do they continually pop up on my news feed? Well, perhaps there's a reason for it. Perhaps that's your body in alignment with God trying to help you find or locate a solution to a trauma that you might be holding on to, unaware that there perhaps is a larger reality out there in the quantum world. And think that multiverse movie of Spider-Man, when we think of quantum world, perhaps there are other realities out there that are beyond our limited perception. And so, yeah, I'm going to leave it all up there. And I'm going to encourage you, as I said, if you're still wanting to hear more about healing and about my own personal healing, then I'm going to put this video at the end. And it won't be right now while I'm doing it live. It'll be after I re-upload this video, because, yeah, a black screen, unfortunately, is what the camera decided to allow. I talked before about how I was trying to do a video, and no matter what I did in the video, the camera kept flipping the image back on me, and it wouldn't record the Fraser River like I had wanted to. So I had to do it offline. Well, this one has been done online, and I thank every soul, SOL, that came on and viewed. And yet I'll find some sort of beautiful video to overlay this audio on, assuming that the video didn't actually come up. I'm looking at it again, and it's still just a blank black screen. And I kind of wanted to keep the appointment and the topic of this video continual. So thank you so much for sharing your attention with me. And as I said, definitely consider watching this video that I post at the end. And if you'd like to, I'll also post a video of one of my favorite videos called I Foresee, and it's the Care Bear. So whether or not you just want to kind of tune out and see how I foresee reality, or at least how the Care Bears foresee reality, then check that out, and then get on to the 14 things that I did to heal myself. So definitely embrace the healer within you. You are the only one who can heal yourself. And healing, by the way, is a journey. It's not a destination. It means there is no quick fix. That's something that we were convinced. So popping Tylenols and ibuprofens and believing that the pain is gone isn't true. The pain has just been hidden, and it will resurface. And so if you continue playing whack-a-mole and not actually dealing with the problem, or running around hoping someone else is going to give you a solution, you're giving your power to them. Whereas I would say that God's source of all is encouraging us to take our power back. And that's what we're seeing right now. We are learning what the truth of reality is. And at the same time, we are learning to avoid those foods that make us bloated and make us gaseous. And yeah, I'll leave it right there. So thank you so much for sharing this amazing morning. And I'm going to try to make it a regular routine, perhaps, to do filming at this particular time, because like I said, my intuition has always been telling me that 5:55, and that's Pacific time for me, would be a great time to wake up and connect. and we'll see what else happens as well. Thank you so much for sharing your attention with me, and I look forward to talking more as I love it. Have a wonderful day, and yeah, let's break this veil open as we step into new earth. So much love.